Before the video starts, I just want to apologize. I am not feeling the best, and I'm sure you can hear that in my voice. Anyways, we're just going to get through that, and I'm going to record this video. Thanks. World of Goo is confusing. When beginning the script, I was torn on the game. On one account, I disliked a lot of things about it, but on the other, when I finished the game, I had this huge grin on my face due to its charm. If I were to be completely honest, I don't think you should play this game right now if you're looking for a sharp, precise experience, but if you want to experience an overlooked piece of gaming history, this game is the progenitor to a lot of great independent titles. If you fall in the latter group, now is the perfect time to do so since it's free with Epic Games until May 16th. I am Sherman Says, and today on Epic Deals, we're going to look at why World of Goo is a title worth remembering. The modern indie game scene is massive, and it's where I look for new releases. Surprisingly enough, I've not played a AAA game at launch for the past 2 years, and I mostly play multiplayer games with my friends, if the game I play is considered AAA. With single-player games feeling homogenized for the most part, save for a few exceptions, I love the expression and oftentimes insanity of indie games. Anyone is allowed to express anything in this space, and I don't think that we would get a detective game like Her Story, the solemn, oppressive cruelty of Binding of Isaac, or the time-bending first-person shooter puzzles of Superhot if not for these independent games. And the three I just mentioned are some of the biggest games in the space, with smaller titles like Momodora, Flinthook, and Guacamelee making some of my favorite games I've ever played. There are more games than I can possibly mention, but they mostly have a couple of factors in common that make them perfect for me. The scope of indie games is often smaller, but so is the price point of the game, something I value as a student with budgeted funds and time. Next, the communities are smaller and more tight-knit, not as toxic as larger communities can become.
The only thing I'm saying holy moly about is how bad he is. Jesus Christ.
However, by far the largest factor that I haven't mentioned yet is digital distribution, something that was in its infancy in 2008 for the release of World of Goo. World of Goo was a purely digital release in an age where not many others were. There were definitely some notable exceptions, but most developers needed a physical distributor to even stand a chance to recoup development costs. So when World of Goo was extremely successful using only digital sales, I'm sure that others took note. It was ranked 7th overall in sales on Steam in 2008, and 2nd for an independent developer only behind Audiosurf, a far more marketable title that was released earlier in the year. World of Goo's success with digital distribution was important at the time, but it is one of the limitations that caused some of my issues with the game when paired with another factor, the hardware. There were two platforms that World of Goo initially released on. First was the PC, where they could set a minimum specifications required, but second was the Wii. Now the Wii is one of the most popular consoles of all time, but the hardware is... that can't be right. Okay, apparently according to Wikipedia, there's only 512 megabytes of onboard storage for the Wii to access. For a disc game, most of the data can be stored on the disc, but for a digital exclusive, they could only use this drive. This is why World of Goo had to be short and simple, because the game had to fit on a drive that could, for reference, house a solid 7% of Portal, which was released the previous year for consoles and PC. And World of Goo had to make sure there was still enough space for all of your other games on that drive as well. The Wii is the reason a lot of interesting choices were made with the game, actually. Gameplay was made with pointer controls in mind. This translates well for PC, where a mouse can be used to similar effect. However, there's also a whole keyboard that can be used as well that isn't available for the Wii, unless you picked up the Logitech 81-key wireless keyboard for Wii, which I'm assuming you didn't know about until I just mentioned it. The Wiimote is the cause for one of my largest gripes with the gameplay, the selection of goo. There is no way you can select which exact goo you want when there are multiple types of goo available, and instead you have to go fishing. And the same issue is there if you want to reposition a placed goo. You would have to wait for there to be no selectable goo near it. The devs did a great job steering into this direction, and it works best for chaotic levels where the player is just trying to make it to the goal as quickly as possible. I really commend the developers for making this game so fun with these limitations. It was, I'm sure, a very hard task to do so. World of Goo can sometimes be frustrating and unfair to the player, but these issues drown out, and that's just because it's fun to play. There's something about this game that so many times everything was just chaotic and I made it to the goal by the skin of my teeth. On top of this, Everywhere you look, this game has heart and character. You can tell everything about this game is handcrafted with love for the project. From the story, to the building, to the sign painter, this game has inescapable charm. Upon boot up of this game, you know what I didn't expect? A socially conscious background plot about environmentalism, beauty, capitalism, and cybersecurity of all things. To see this game succeed in telling a story that is not divisive in these areas is so impressive, and it goes back to what I love about indie games as a whole. People are allowed to express themselves fully. World of Goo was loved by critics when it was initially released, and I think the story and charm had a lot to do with that. There were times when I was laughing reading something that the sign painter had written, and other times I felt guilty for what I was doing. At the end of the day, isn't that what good art is supposed to do? Make you feel something? Everyone loves an underdog story, and 3 people who quit their day job to work on a video game idea from a game jam, before they were even called game jams, with $10,000 of their own dollars on the line to spend of it and 2 years of their life to devote to it, only to release it to critical and commercial success is just that. A wonderful story of overcoming, much like everything else in this game. The enjoyment of the game overcomes so many factors that could hold it back due to the palpable feeling of passion infused in the very essence of this game. I think I was a little harsh in the beginning when I said that you shouldn't play this game. It's well worth playing, but
My brother once told me that nothing someone says before the word but really counts.
okay, if you can get past the rough edges and have an appreciation for the creation of it. Otherwise, if you want a more refined product, look to the many modern examples of people who seem to be inspired by this game. Play it or not, I don't think this game deserves to be forgotten by the public consciousness like it is being forgotten. When it was announced to be free, I had only heard about it from my research into Jonathan Blow from my Witness video since he released Braid the same year and mentioned it in passing. Hopefully this video, if nothing else, will make a small number of you who watch it appreciate this game for what it was, one of the first cornerstones laid in the building that is the independent market. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a great day.